This story starts with an unexplained and unjustified termination from my employment. And you will see here, it says, decision having been made due to my skills and my work style not being of the standard required for Excel Power Systems business. Now, when I followed up on this, as you will see, they would not justify it, they would not make any statements whatsoever regarding supporting evidence of that. So I wrote an email to my line manager, the managing director of the company. Richard, I simply wish to ask you one thing. Why approximately 3 months ago did you advise me that there was no problem and that I had permanent employment? In answer to my statement in question, I am thinking about buying a property rather than renting. Would I be safe to assume to do this? On the basis of your reply, I went on to purchase a property which not only had me commit to a 5-year fixed interest rate mortgage with huge penalties attached so that I now cannot sell the property, but I also bought a property in significant disrepair and would even discuss it with you afterward, while you also okayed the P60 issuance which I needed to prove my employment to the mortgage lender. Not only that, but only last week I took on a further significant investment of £5,700 for glazing, while I have spent over £3,000 on bathroom renovation. All of this, Richard, on your word that I had permanent employment after 3 months into the job. The 3 months which was originally suggested as a probationary period, but which then changed to 6 months when I was sent the contract to sign. Legally, you're entitled to do whatever you wish with the employment of someone if within their probationary period, which was formerly 6 months as stated. But morally, just let me ask you, now that you've put me in one hell of a financial mess, how do you live with that? I simply wish to know, are you man enough to even apologise? It doesn't change my circumstances, but it at least would show you have some integrity. Other than that, I wish you well and hope your health improves. Mark. Mark, please accept my apologies for not responding before today. They have only just been redirected to me again. I was not previously seeing them as they were being looked after by others while I was ill. Many thanks for your best wishes. I am still off sick and will be for at least another month. I don't propose to go into great detail, but 3 months ago we all had high hopes that you would succeed. It became obvious as time progressed that this was not the case. As far as the job was concerned, I will not apologise for you losing it. It was down to you to make a success of that. However, I would not have, Richard. I would not have wished to place you in financial difficulties, and for that I'm sorry. I wish you the very best for the future and hope you find a position quickly. Best regards. So, it's time to go legal, and Excel solicitors dismissed every last letter I wrote to them. So time to meet with Damian Green MP in the hope he can help. Yes, Damian, you signed a referral letter to the pro bono section of the Law Society for me, but you really were just interested in getting me out of your office. Once you signed, you knew you had passed the buck. Job done then, Damian? Oh no, that just isn't good enough. Now bear in mind when reading this response from Damian Green that it's our parliamentarians that actually pass bills which create the laws. They debate them and then they pass bills to create them. So how can he possibly say, or any of them say, that they're not legally qualified? Somewhat of a contradiction, don't you think?
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, Damian. This is just for the public record, since you're in public office.
I'm sorry, I'm not doing this.
Sorry?
I'm sorry, you can't do this.
Why?
Um,
Your public office.
I am in public office.
I want this recorded, on record. I want this is important to me. This is so immensely important to me. As a human being, I would like you to just discuss with me.
I discuss things in private.
Well, but this is my private issue.
Yes.
Therefore, I'm happy to discuss it.
But I'm not, this is a private conversation, and there are conversations that, obviously If I know I'm going to have in public, then fine, you can put it on YouTube or what you want to do. But this is a private conversation about private matters.
My private matters. Mine, not yours. You're my representative, aren't you?
Yes.
Right. If you're my representative, I'm not yours. You're in public office. I have a serious problem. I have children who cannot go to university because I don't have an income. There are many issues here, many issues. And I have a barrister who states quite clearly, please have a look at it. I have a barrister who states quite clearly that the company I worked for breached contract.
So what we have is their own procedures being breached. What that means is, firstly, a contractual breach, and secondly, there's an ACAS code of practice, which applies even though you're not up to the threshold of having 1 or 2 years employment. So although you cannot sue an unfair dismissal, what you can do is you can say these are the procedures which should be applied to any employee, and clearly they weren't in your case.
Now, I am a human being, and you understand the legal person. You understand that issue. The birth certificate making a legal person, a legal personality. It has a yin and a yang. The yin is that we get passports, we get driver's licenses, we get all of these things. The yang is that we have to pay taxes. And we have to bail out banks because we now are in a social contract with a government who gave us a legal personality on the production and the signing of a birth certificate where we were not given the full understanding of what that signature on the birth certificate, which is a contract, meant. It meant we had all the goodies, the benefits, but we didn't understand, none of us did, and our parents were forced by law, by this thing called law, were forced into signing this. Now, I would like to sit down and discuss this with you, and I'll certainly put this off.
I think it would be very sensible, because if you march
Then,
in with a camera,
but you're, I understand that.
To achieve with this. I mean,
well, what I'm trying to achieve is, I'm here to meet with you to discuss these things, and these things are important, and they have affected me so massively now over years, and I want to explain that to you, and I want you to take the time to understand how they have. And it's affected, therefore, my family, and that's personal. And I have a barrister who said, and that's his exact words, and I've got that recorded. I've got a barrister who said it is a clear breach of contract. The contract I made with this company, and this company made with me, they have breached. And I have no recourse. I have no recourse. Because the law as it stands is in favour of one legal person, or a juristic person, a company which is given legal personality over another legal person. They have more money than I do. I don't have, they've taken my money in the sense. They've basically given me a job and then pulled the rug from under my feet, which means that I don't have the money to go to court. And a judge would look at this and say, well, Mr. Welsh, if you don't have the money, that if you don't win this case, that you have to pay the costs of the other party, then we can't take this forward. You need to prove that, you have the capability in case you lose. I don't have the money. The government have now stripped legal aid. And I have a pro bono barrister who, although he has stated clearly that he sees there has been a breach of contract, which in law means that and they've admitted it, by the way, they have admitted it, and I've sent you this. They've admitted it in their own responses to us. They admitted the breach of contract.
However, if it is your contention that you were contractually entitled to a disciplinary hearing before your dismissal and the company failed to follow through that procedure, this is admitted. Sloan, Plum, Wood, solicitors for Excel Power Systems.
Now, how the pro bono section of the Law Society can then turn round to me and say that I have less than a 50% chance of winning the case is beyond me, when the other party has admitted the breach of contract and a barrister is saying breach of contract. And by the way, if you read that, the government and the courts are discriminating themselves because, as the barrister says, you're not a pregnant woman or a person, not a human being, or a person of ethnic minority, or a minority sexually, or anything really. Because if that had happened, you could sue an employment tribunal, which means that the courts and the government are discriminating against me for being a white, straight male. It's as plain as day.
Well, it's very unfortunate, Mark, that when you were dismissed, first of all, you haven't been an employee long enough, and secondly, that you're not a pregnant woman or a person of an ethnic minority or minority sexuality or anything really, because if that happened, then you could sue in an employment tribunal for discrimination, which doesn't have a minimum time period of service.
Sure.
In a way, you've fallen into a very unfair category of being someone who's has a contract, but who otherwise is really, well, doesn't have much in their armory.
If you were one of these, we could go for these people, but you're not. You're just Mark Welsh, white straight male. You're not pregnant. You're not gay. You're not an ethnic minority. Therefore, you don't have a hope in hell.
Fundamental of law. All persons are equal before it. If that is the case, then the government and judiciary, through discriminatory practice, is undermining my recourse to the law and therefore trampling my human rights. And this little impotent MP knows it.
I've lost tens of thousands of pounds on the basis of a promissory obligation by that company. And I want that £40,000 at least back, because there are damages that are due on promissory estoppel, on many other points of law, and I have to go in to court as a legal person. A legal person, J. Jacob Brooks, at last I exist. Please, you do understand this. At last I exist. Meaning after 20 years of life where she didn't exist according to law, she was finally given a birth certificate, and therefore she became a legal personality, a legal person in a...
Are you good?
Okay. So I'll switch this off.
Damian felt threatened by a camera. He would not talk while on camera. Why? Because he knows about all of this legal fiction. Plus, he didn't want you to see how he, all MPs, just palm you off with their excuses and their bullshit. You see, while Damian was being investigated by the Metropolitan Police into leaks from the Home Office, the Conservative Party gave him 2 donations totalling £140,000. That's the difference between what he's due in his legal personality and what you are. And guess what? Damian Green probably, I'm saying probably, isn't even gay. And he's certainly not black. Who gets paid £2,083 for doing precisely 14 hours per month for a period of 2 years between 2009 and 2011? I asked Damian, and all he said was that he did that prior to being a minister. However, more correctly, it was in between ministerial duties. He wouldn't say what he did in those 14 hours, however, but it's a little like the Bilderberg chappies. They attend in their private capacity, but get invited for what they know and can achieve in the public function. Bribery? A little payback? No, I'd never say that.